Yup, I found the reason your breaker keeps tripping. Some bad electrical habits look completely normal, but over time they can lead to burnt wires, trip breakers, and much worse. And the problem is, most people don't realize they did anything wrong until they start having problems. And there's a good chance that you have at least one of these habits in your home right now. Hey guys, I'm John with Backyard Maine. I've been an electrician for over 40 years, and I want to help you avoid making some of these mistakes that you'll regret later on. So let's jump right into it. Habit number 1, rock and rolling your wire strippers. Sure, I like rock and roll, but not when it comes to stripping wires. So what do I mean? It's actually pretty common. When people strip wire, they'll rock the strippers back and forth or roll them around the wire to get the insulation to come loose. It works, but it's not a good habit. The problem is you can nick or weaken the conductor, and over time that wire can heat up or even break off right at that spot. Here's what you want to do instead. Insert the wire into the correct cutter and close the strippers all the way down. Then release just slightly and use your thumb like a lever to pull the insulation off. Also, if we're stripping wires to make J-hooks for screw terminals, I find that about 3/4 of an inch is the perfect length. Then when you bend your J-hooks, let the wire stick just slightly past the edge of the strippers like this, and then bend it until the two sides are parallel. It doesn't have to be perfect. Now, since we've made the proper J-hooks, when we land them on the screw terminals, we have enough insulation removed for a solid connection, but not so much that bare wire is sticking out past the back of the device. And remember, we want that J-hook going in the clockwise direction, so when we tighten the screw, it actually pulls the loop tighter together. That's how you make a solid, reliable connection that'll last for decades. I really love these wire strippers. They're stainless steel so they won't rust, and they fit my hand perfectly. If you're interested in these wire strippers or any of my other favorite tools, you'll find them linked down in the video description. Or if you're watching from TV, just scan the QR code right here on the screen. Now, the next one on the list is very common, and a lot of people think it's just fine, but it's actually a code violation. Habit number 2, the double tap. I think most people know not to put more than one wire under the screw terminal on an outlet or a switch. But the question is it okay to do in your electrical panel? Well, in most cases, the answer is no. But in reality, it's done all the time. Article 110.3b of the National Electrical Code says that we have to follow the manufacturer's instructions. And in most cases, terminals in electrical panels are only listed for one wire. That applies to your breakers, your neutral bar, and even your ground bar. Most of those are only rated for a single conductor under each terminal. And this is where I've seen some problems. When you put two wires under one terminal, they don't always stay tight. They can shift and one or both wires can come loose. Once that happens, resistance starts to build up. The heat builds up, the insulation starts to break down, and eventually the connection can fail completely. A loose connection at a breaker will often cause nuisance tripping due to the heat buildup at the connection. A trip breaker is a warning sign, so before we just go and reset it, we should try to understand what caused it to trip. Was it a loose connection, an overload, a short circuit, or maybe just a bad breaker? I should mention that there are some breakers that are listed for two wires. Certain Square D, QO, and Homeline breakers, for example, have a saddle clamp that's designed for it. But if the breaker doesn't clearly allow it, you should assume it's one wire per terminal. If you do need to combine two wires, use a pigtail. Tie the wires together with a wire nut and land a single conductor on the breaker terminal. That's perfectly acceptable in a panel as long as it's done neatly, the wires are the same size, and you're not exceeding the volume allowance of the space. The NEC covers this specifically in Article 312.8. The next one creates a lot of debate, and that is habit number 3, skipping the twist. Most wire knot brands will state that pre-twisting is permitted, but it's not required. But based on my experience, it's a best practice to pre-twist solid wires before installing the wire nut. That gives you a solid connection before the wire nut even goes on. I've found that if you skip this step, those connections are much more prone to coming loose. Sometimes one wire will twist down lower than the others, and now you've got a poor connection or even an open connection. Pre-twisting does a couple of things. First, it allows you to actually see that all the conductors are twisted together properly and nothing is moved. Second, it gives the wire nut something solid to grab onto so it can hold everything tight while insulating the connection. We always taught our apprentices to never skip the twist, and I don't recommend that you skip it either. Now, the next one on the list isn't one of the 7 habits that I'm sharing with you today, but it's one of those things that can cause big problems if you don't catch it early. So I want to take a minute to talk about something that's becoming a real problem for homeowners: scams, fraud, and identity theft. And here's what most people don't realize. It doesn't start with someone draining your bank account overnight. For homeowners, it often starts somewhere you'd never expect. A home equity loan taken out in your name, a credit card opened using your address, or a scammer impersonating a contractor to redirect your deposit. By the time you find out, the damage is already done. An electrician I know noticed a $45 water bill for an account taken out in his name in another state. Seemed like no big deal, but that's how it starts. It's a test, and if nobody catches it, that's when the real damage begins. That's why I use NordProtect, and I want to thank them for sponsoring this video. NordProtect monitors your credit 24/7, scans the dark web for your personal information, and alerts you the moment something looks wrong, before it turns into a much bigger problem. And if something does happen, they offer identity theft insurance, online fraud coverage, and cyber extortion protection to help cover eligible losses. Real financial backup, not just monitoring. I've got an exclusive link in the description with a special discount, and it's risk-free with a 30-day money-back guarantee, so check it out. Protect your identity now with nordprotect.com/backyardmaine. All right, let's get back into it with a really frustrating one that you should try to avoid. Habit number 4, feeding off the load side of GFCI receptacles. This one can be fine, or it can turn into a really frustrating habit. Let me explain. It's common to install a GFCI at the first outlet in the kitchen or bathroom and then feed the rest of that circuit from the load side of that GFCI. By doing this, it provides ground fault protection to everything downstream on that circuit. So if there's a ground fault downstream, the first GFCI shuts the whole thing down. In a lot of cases, that's perfectly fine because everything's in the same room, usually just a few feet away. But in many homes, especially older ones, those circuits don't stop there. They can run into other rooms, down in the basement, out to the garage, even outside. So this is where it can become a problem. I've been called into plenty of homes where people say, hey, half the outlets in the home don't work. Maybe some lights too, but none of the breakers are tripped. The first thing I do, start looking for a tripped GFCI. Sometimes it's in a bathroom or a kitchen, but I've found them in other rooms, basements, garages, even outside. When that one GFCI trips, it can take out everything downstream, and it's not always obvious where it is. Little story, last summer a friend of mine called me because 2 of the GFCIs out in his yard weren't working. They weren't tripped, and none of his breakers were tripped, so he couldn't figure out what was going on. So I went down there. Turns out they were fed from a GFCI in his garage that was buried behind a bunch of boxes. So if you're wiring GFCIs, this is something to think about. And if you have some outlets that aren't working and no breakers are tripped, go around and check your GFCIs before spending your money on a service call. Now, the next one on the list is something many of you know about, so I'll just touch on it briefly. Habit number 5, backstabbing. Mother Nature is backstabbing us right now with this mid-April weather. If you don't know, the little holes that you see in the back of your electrical devices are what we in the trade call backstab connections. These are available on 15 amp residential grade switches and receptacles, and they're only rated for 14 gauge solid copper wire. The manufacturers provide them as an easy way for the average homeowner to replace an outlet or a switch, but they aren't very reliable. Unlike a mechanical connection, the stabs simply wedge the wire in between two conductive surfaces. The spring tension created holds the connection in place. Over time, with heating and cooling cycles, these connections can become loose and cause flickering or connection failure. The good news is 15 amp residential grade devices also offer the side screw connections, like I showed you earlier in this video. They're much more reliable and they'll probably save you hours of time hunting down a loose connection. Avoiding the backstabs will save you lots of frustration down the road for sure. Now, the next one on the list is something we all do at least sometimes, and that is number 6, the ignore it habit. We all can be guilty of this one, right? We know something's not quite right, but we figure we'll check it out later. Electrical issues are like fires. They start small, but they usually give us signs, warning signs that we can detect, things that we can see, hear, feel, or smell. You might see flickering or dimming lights, burn marks on a receptacle or switch, or maybe the device works one day and doesn't the next. These can be signs of loose connections, overloaded circuits, or worn out devices. You might hear a buzzing or a crackling sound coming from a light fixture, a switch, a receptacle, or even your electrical panel. That's not normal, and it's not something you want to ignore. You might feel warmth or even heat coming from an outlet, a switch, or a cord. Electrical devices should not be getting hot. So if something feels really warm or hot to the touch, that's something that you do not want to ignore. And sometimes we can even smell it, a faint burning smell or maybe a sharp plastic odor. That can mean insulation is breaking down or something is already starting to overheat. Electrical problems never get better on their own. If we do nothing, they will eventually fail. They can even become dangerous or start a fire. So we need to take those small warning signs seriously before they become big problems. Now, if you don't know much about this next one, you're not alone. Number 7, multi-wire branch circuit mishaps. A multi-wire branch circuit is a circuit where you have 2 hot wires from separate breakers on opposite legs sharing one common neutral. These circuits are common in homes and they're widely misunderstood by homeowners, DIYers, and even some electricians. When they're installed correctly, they can be perfectly safe. But the problem is, many aren't installed correctly or they've been modified over the years by someone who didn't realize they were doing something wrong. And if breakers get moved around on a panel, that shared neutral can become overloaded. And if the breakers aren't tied together, you could have a shock hazard present when you think the power's off. Another issue is if that neutral ever comes loose, you can end up putting up to 200 volts on a 120 volt circuit. That can damage appliances and in some cases even start a fire. Personally, I'm not a big fan of multi-wire branch circuits because it makes it too easy for someone to create a dangerous situation down the road without realizing it. I made a full video on this, how they work, what can go wrong, and how to spot them. I'll link that right here for you to watch next. Remember to check out that Nord Protect link down in the video description. You'll also find my tool list down there as well, or you can scan the QR code right here on the screen. I'm John from Backyard Maine. I really appreciate you guys being here, and I'll see you on the next one.